What's going on? I am AnokhiTheOne, and I am back with another video. It's been a hot little minute, but I am going to break down some things with this Diddy documentary that I have not seen anywhere online till this day. Right? I haven't even seen anybody with this perspective in the comments. And once I give you these lenses to see through, to see this documentary and this whole situation, you will not be able to unsee it. Okay. So, what am I talking about? We could just kind of cut to the chase because I was forced by one of my friends to actually watch the entire documentary because I was just going to stop at the first episode because I was like, I've seen everything that I need to see. Right? But I'm glad she made me watch it because it inspired me to make this video because I see so many people online talking about it. It's just so interesting. Right? And I'm a big time reader. Right? So my perspective, just simply because of that fact, is very different. So what am I talking about? When I watched the documentary, the first episode, and if you haven't watched it, this will be a bit of a spoiler alert, This is a spoiler alert right here, but it'll be a bit of a spoiler. But if you want to watch it from lenses that nobody else has pretty much seen it, I'm not going to say nobody else, but most people haven't. Then, keep watching. Otherwise, go watch it and then come back here, right? For the people who have already seen it, you go watch it again and you will, I'm telling you, when you watch it again, I'm telling you, it's going to be different. So what I will also say, disclaimer, this breakdown is largely based in logic. It's not so much emotional, right? It's based on knowledge of the history of Hollywood, the history of the music industry, and the history of media in general, right? And propaganda, which was the big idea that Diddy talked about in the first episode. So in this, I'm going to also talk about principles from 50 Cent's book because a lot of y'all don't even know he got books out. I've had his leather bound book called The 50th Law for like 7-8 years, right? Because there's a few Robert Greene books that I like, right? And so I'm gonna correlate the principles that 50 Cent teaches and how it ties into this documentary and how they moving chess across the chessboard with this one right here. Okay, so from that perspective, I'm sure there will be people that will be emotional still because the whole purpose of the documentary is to stir up your emotions. So what does the man say in the beginning? Now we're going to use chapter 1. This is chapter 1. Y'all can go look at the book. They got Audible. It's wonderful, right? You can get the Audible for both of his books. I'm on his second book now. See things for what they are in intense realism. That's the first chapter. Intense realism. Okay, a lot of what he talks about in both books is the difference between 50 Cent or Curtis Jackson. The difference between the show that they put on and the business that they actually do behind the scenes. So I keep dancing around this first part of the episode. We're going to think about this from intense realism, right? Because there's a lot of people that's trying to, he will feed into those delusions that you having. But him being the businessman that he is, he's having intense realism. So I could definitely see if he ever watches this, he'd probably be cracking up laughing like, girl, you got it. I don't know how you got it, but you got it. Right? But there is a cameraman, right? A paid cameraman, paid for by Diddy. Right? And he is capturing Diddy talking on the phone, telling a lawyer that he needs dirty propaganda to control the narrative. Because when other people control it, then they can just do anything. And there may be people that's not watching, that don't be on social media or whatever, right? Who just watching the news and they seen a particular narrative. He needs to reach a broader audience. And y'all will see these things because y'all done got so comfortable watching skits on Instagram, not thinking about, okay, if there is a cameraman, for example, the camera, you are supposed to be the person in the camera, I guess, or whatever. You hear somebody talking in the ethers, but they holding the camera and they talking to somebody, right? And it's just not logical that this would be a normal thing, that a person would be looking dead into a camera. They're not looking at you, fool. They're looking into a camera, saying these things like they don't know the camera is there. See, y'all so comfortable. Y'all done got comfortable with that, right? We starting to get comfortable with AI. Y'all getting comfortable with things that are not real, artificial, right? So when they have these little captions in between, right? When they're showing you the truth, they have captions. Well, the camera. When I really think about it, it's just silly. The cameraman, right? He captured this footage. He was able to get this footage a couple days before the trial, right? And then on 50 Cent page, you see all kind of different people, whether they AI or whether they're really fans or whatever, or people explaining how, right? Diddy, he's such a bad boy. He doesn't pay his videographers, and therefore, when he don't pay them, they go out and sell the video. If you want to do propaganda and you don't want people to know that you're doing propaganda, you're not going to hire somebody, sit there and watch them look dead into the camera and talk about how you want to do propaganda. Right? And the cool thing about propaganda, and this goes into the ancestral alignment thing, when it comes to my research with genealogy and different things like that, I have a page now. If y'all on YouTube, some of y'all come from my my ancestral alignment page, but I built up a page this past year, has almost 70,000 followers. I'm sure more now. But blackness, right? And the entire world view of what black people are and the image of blackness literally is defined by propaganda, right? The entertainment industry was literally created. And I have a book on the way right now called Blackface, White Noise, talking about how when the Jewish immigrants came to America, how they basically created entertainment to get the hate off of them and focus on us by doing caricatures of us and doing blackface and doing all kind of bullshit, right? With our image. You see what I'm saying? So this is why history is so important. But propaganda is so cold, right? They're so cold with the propaganda. They got so good at the propaganda that they could literally say, I need some propaganda. I need somebody out there to give me some propaganda. I don't care if they from another country. I don't care who it is. I don't care who it is. I don't care who it is. I don't care who is the face of my propaganda. I just need some. So, and then proceed to give you propaganda and you don't know that it's propaganda. Why? The same reason why you can sit there and watch somebody pretend like a camera's not in their face while they're doing a skit. Because we've been brainwashed and we've been desensitized to logic, right? We just moving from emotion to emotion, right? So, basically what I'm getting at is, because some of y'all don't understand what I'm getting at still. People think this is a 50 Cent documentary. They believe what they're told. That's the problem. They don't look at things with intense realism. By the time I got to the end of the 4th episode, I was more clear than ever that this is not a 50 Cent documentary about Diddy, like people saying, like it's presented. It is a Diddy documentary about Diddy, right? And I'm going to break this thing down. It's a Diddy documentary about Diddy. And the person who he got to do the dirty propaganda was the perfect person to do it. Why? Because it fits perfectly with his brand, right? It's perfectly in alignment with 50 Cent's brand to be petty, to beef with people, and to, do dirty propaganda. That's how he got Ja Rule kicked out the game, right? So, but what people the what they're lacking when it comes to realism, when it comes to 50 Cent and Diddy, is that realistically these men work together. These men been working together. Realistically, they have no beef, right? 50 Cent has no reason to beef with Diddy, and has no reason to make a documentary that is disparaging to Diddy, right? And this is what, right? Because people are like, well, he did. This documentary reinforces Diddy's brand. It educates you on his brand. It educates, it further reinforces the brand of him being a bad boy. He breaks down how, right, in the documentary, he is not a gangster. He's not really a gangster. He's a nerd. He comes from a nice area. He comes from the suburbs. The only way he's ever been able to get any kind of street credibility was through propaganda, was through incidents happening that people blamed it on him, and they made it, he basically took all the blame for it. Like, for example, the first basketball thing that happened, right, where people started trampling each other and died because it was over capacity or whatever the case may be. Now they blame everything on Diddy. And as a kid, he was scared, right? But he had mentors around, right, that broke it down to him. All press is good press, right? He started to realize people is scared of me right now, right? More people are wanting to come to my parties because their perspective, even though they're presenting it in a negative way, the flip side of that perspective is, dang, his parties is so lit, his events is so fire that people are killing themselves to get into them. Right? So, okay, yeah, it was my, he don't have to say, oh, it was my fault that everybody took themselves out. He could just let it happen. Same thing with Tupac and Biggie, right? Them, because I used to, when I was younger, when I used to look into the Illuminati and they make it seem everything scary and creepy. No, this is not to say that he couldn't have done any of these things. Maybe he didn't. Maybe he didn't. We don't really know. Right? But what it does do is make you want to fear Diddy. Make it seem like he is somebody to be feared. Right? Because he was behind Tupac's assassination. He was behind Biggie's assassination. When in reality, it very well could have been just street guys who had some kind of beef for whatever reason with both of them, and took them both out. Because they had a lot of people that wanted to take out Tupac. They had a lot of people that wanted to take out Biggie. They had people that wanted to take Biggie out because they felt like they was behind taking out Tupac. Right? So, but having these stories that Diddy had something to do with it, whether he did or not, it just reinforces the bad boy image, because at the end of the day, they're gone and he's still alive. So who won the battle? Right? He talked about how he got a lot more famous after Biggie passed away as a solo artist. Right? And so 50 Cent has a whole chapter on that called Turning Shit to Sugar. Now, am I saying this is good? This is right? This is how things should be? It's intense realism. It doesn't, I mean, I could have, should have, would have, but intense realism. This is what it is, right? Even saying, and this is something I learned from a book that I read called Men Behaving Badly. I forgot the name of the author, but you can look that up. But it's basically about evolutionary psychology of men and women, and talking about the different things that men have evolved to do or whatever, and just certain reason why things happen with the male species since evolution, right? In combination with another book called I always get it wrong, but it's like Cosmic Mother. I think it's Restoring the Religion of the Earth or something like that. That book as well. It breaks down what sexual assault actually is, because that's one of those things that has always baffled my mind. It's like, why would somebody do some shit like that? Like, why would you even do that? Like, why? It doesn't make no sense, right? I think a lot of people, and a lot of women in particularly, they think that men do this because they have some kind of just insatiable desire, or they can't control themselves or something like that, and they just, are so attracted to a woman that they just disregard her completely, right? Her choice. And that's a romanticized perspective, but the ugly truth of the matter is, it is a sign of power and control, right? It is a political weapon, right? This is why they talk about buck breaking, right? And then we go into propaganda, okay? So the propaganda behind buck breaking is literally made up, right? If you do the research, there is no true historical evidence that there was any buck breaking that happened in America. Like they say, it really don't even make no sense, right? They were hyper religious, hyper homophobic. So why would they outwardly be doing some stuff like that in the public? There's no evidence that ever happened, right? If anything, that they might have been doing stuff with little kids who couldn't defend themselves, but nowhere were they doing this to no grown black men, right? But why do they tell this story? They tell the story the same reason why they put this story of that producer in there talking about he was in the studio, right? And P. Diddy took a liking to him because he could play different instruments, and he promoted himself. Y'all don't understand what people will do for fame and money. He promoting himself in the documentary. All of these people in the documentary, first of all, is paid, right? And it's doing so well, right? They probably got paid real good. They're getting a lot of promotions, right? For whatever they're trying to sell or whatever they're trying to do in life, right? So they created win-win situations with these people. So anyway, this producer, he talked about, now the first thing that I thought was weird and confusing is Diddy sent me a video of him penetrating a white man. And I was confused. Let's use intense realism. Because I'm going to be honest, the men, when it comes to a lot of this, is a lot closer to reality than a lot of the women. I'm just be completely honest. And then they got a lot of men that are like, they're going with it because they don't want to look like some kind of predator or crazy. But you a grown man and you don't know what the message is. Then he reaffirmed that he couldn't have not known, because he said, well, this is what you got to do to make it into industry. He's telling you what? But to go back to the propaganda side, when it comes to buck breaking, the reason why they added that part in the documentary, right? Because they don't want to just have the white or the black audience engaged and upset and emotional in their emotions. They also want the white audience engaged and upset in their emotions. I would not be a bit surprised. Diddy and 50 Cent sitting at the writing table, cracking their ass up laughing with the producer. And I'm going to give you a story to confirm it that's in this book, and you can go and clock me, go and read the book, listen to the book, and reinforces what I'm saying about 50 Cent and how he don't have no problem with propaganda, with making propaganda. Now, I could see all three of them sitting up there cracking up laughing, coming up with these stories. The reason why he put that in there is because why? Sexually assaulting, right, a grown man and a grown white man, right, is defying, right, the caste system that we're under, right? And it's putting Diddy, and all of this is putting Diddy, right, in the elite status above the average white man, right? Because if you actually study history, rich black men has always been at a higher status. Famous and rich black men have always been at a higher status than regular everyday white people. But everyday people don't fully grasp that, right? It's not said out loud, but it just is. Okay? So basically he's throwing that in the face of white men in the white community. And that got them in an uproar. Same with what's that girl from Dandy Kane? I don't remember her name, but y'all know who I'm talking about. She's always gotten on my nerves. Even in the show, she was just annoying. But like attracts like, I've never really, Diddy has always gotten on my nerves, right? You could look at what he do from a distance and tell whether you want to be in the room with him or not. So what are y'all talking about? So her, right? Now they were close, right? They can talk about, oh, he was really hard on me. But she also talks about how basically he said she was the lead of the group and pretty much his favorite. So, and the only time she's ever been relevant in the last, since Danny Kane, is when she talking bad about Diddy, right? And making him seem like this horrible bad boy, reinforcing his image. So 9 times 10, they always been close. So the story that she told, in a way, it makes sense, but at the same time, it doesn't. But overarching when it comes to this realism, because she was able to make it seem like she was a victim without confirming that she was a victim, right? But it reinforces this idea that Diddy is just this all-powerful, all-bad guy, right? But because she is a woman, her role in that, right? There's a couple of them where it really doesn't make those sense. When you actually listen to what they're saying with intense realism, it doesn't fully make sense, right? But it makes sense for your subconscious mind and for your emotions, right? Her whole sole purpose in the documentary was to be the precious white woman, right, that could or could not have been victimized by black men, right, powerful black men, to piss off. The whole reason why the WNBA, and it's sick and sad and ridiculous, but the whole reason why the WNBA is as popular as it is right now is because this damsel in distress white woman thing in American culture, right? With Caitlin Clark. Oh my God, they set a pic. They nearly killed her ass on the court, right? Oh, they played a little defense. They're trying to kill her. They're bullying her. They just hate her because they're black and lesbian. Bitch, that bitch is a lesbian. I'm not going to say she lesbian, but come on. She looking just as hard as rough and tough as everybody else, okay? She has a beard, boyfriend, but that dynamic is literally the reason why but in this last year, people ain't been watching and talking about the WNBA nearly as much because Angel Reese, I think she's been kind of injured or something going on, and Caitlin Clark been injured. So they didn't have the damsel in distress, right? She not a lesbian. The other white girls is lesbians, so they don't count as no damsel in distress. She need to be straight, white, and have a boyfriend. They know these things about our society. They could not get to the levels that they're at when it comes to commerce, when it comes to sales of music. Music is all about psychology. Film is all about psychology and understanding the human mind and what is. Having intense realism, right? And knowing what triggers to pull and layers and levers to pull at any moment. Right? So, and then with Cassie, that was like the grand finale thing. So let's talk about intense realism. But just to get back to that point about 50 Cent, how he is not shy to propaganda. Now, I was cracking up laughing. Now, of course, again, this situation is not a laughing matter because things like this happen in real life. And I'm going to tap into the real stuff, the real issues of things going on, right? But right now I'm just breaking down the documentary. So when you watch it again, you will see the half smile And the half laugh that almost every single one of them people had in the documentary. There was a couple that were good actors, but for the most part, right? Even the girl from Dirty Money, shit didn't make no damn sense. No, she talking about how she was just asking the man for money. This is intense realism. $5,000. He said no. Y'all, if you could ask Diddy for $5,000, y'all close. Y'all close. You know he only gonna be in jail for 4 years. That ain't no time. So you gonna keep that relationship going. You ain't gonna go on a documentary with the enemy bashing him, knowing he gonna be out 4 years, and you close enough to get $5,000. Stop playing. Y'all making money together. Y'all still making money, right? So she talking about how, I'm scared to talk about stuff because, I have my kids that hard up for money, just about all of them, and they getting paid from that. They getting paid from the documentary. And then she goes on to say how he asked me to write a letter, and so I did, right? And so I said, he ain't never did no weird stuff with me, and I don't know what's wrong with these women. And I just wrote that because I was so scared, and I didn't want nothing to happen. But she never recanted and say, he actually did do some shit. It didn't even make no sense. If you actually go back and listen to what she said, and without emotion, because she was actually one of those good actors that was crying. It looked like she was serious, right? At the end of the day, this is helping her, right? Because she probably was telling the truth with whatever statement she said, because maybe he didn't mess with her. She might have seen him mess with some other people, but he probably didn't mess with her, right? So, people been going out their mind for anybody that defends Diddy in any kind of way. So this is a win-win situation where she could still support Diddy because he created the goddamn documentary, right? But also clear her name so she not losing opportunities out in the world, and she can still sell whatever she's trying to sell and get paid. It's all win-win situation. Same with the dreadhead, okay? Same with the dreadhead, man. The whole time he's just giddy talking about Diddy. He's just giddy. That man, they still close and still friends. Talking about, he took my shares and he said he was going to give it back. But then, he fired me and then I sued him after he told you he was taking the shares. So you're going to let him take the shares and talk about, I'm going to give it back. Why would he give it back? Why would he take it in the first place? Like, these are the things that don't make no sense. But you stayed working for years after he took the stuff and never really told you when he was going to give it back. And then you talking about towards the end, he's talking about, and I dealt with, sexual assault. He was sexually assaulting me. Now, you're a grown man, right? Same thing with the producer. He talking about nights with an S, that he woke up next to a woman, and some nights he woke up next to Diddy with his booty hole hurting. Multiple nights. Y'all grown adult men. What are you talking about? What are we talking about? Not to say it can't happen, but most of the times that don't make no sense. And you talking about, I'm just trying to feed my family. I tried to tough it out and I tried to talk to her about it, but what you talking to her about? You should be talking to him about it. Y'all grown. What's happening? So there's things that don't make sense. And then the other guy, now he's saying he was sexually assaulted, but he didn't leave the company till Diddy fired him. And then he sued him after that. Right? So what I'm saying is, am I saying that they're lying? They're not really victims. What I'm saying all these people is still working with, from what it sounds like, with intense realism. Just about all these people cut a deal with Diddy, and it was a good deal because 99.999% of people is not going to put two and two together and really question it. And even if they do question it, right, they have no proof, right? So it's a win-win because there's always going to be far more people that are going to side with the victims in the way it was presented than Diddy. But Diddy doesn't need them to love him because that's not even his brand. His brand, right? Even from Making a Band, did he want people to love him on Making a Band? Hell no. He's like Simon. People felt bad for the artists. Right? They're like, oh, poor artists. They got to walk down talking about, what's the man, Dave Chappelle? Breast milk. But they had to walk down the streets of New York to get a cheesecake. He's so cruel. He's terrible, right? He's Simon, right? 50 Cent's brand is he's a lovable guy. Women love him. All his exes say he's a gangster in the streets, but in real life, he's just a sweet gentleman and all this other stuff, right? And he's a jokester. He's petty. Right? He has beef with everybody, right? But it's strategic. He been doing it strategically the whole time. So a story in the book when it comes to 50 Cent. Before he even got big, when he was still in the streets, he talked about how, and again, these men are geniuses. That's the thing. Like, y'all are looking at 50 Cent and Diddy. Y'all not looking at Sean Combs and Curtis Jackson. Curtis Jackson and Sean Combs are complete total geniuses, right, in their own right when it comes to business. Are they best in their personal lives? I don't know their personal lives, right? I don't know what they're doing, right? But when it comes to business, they're geniuses. And this is business right here. This is the entertainment business. This is what they're doing right now. It's a Netflix documentary. It's entertainment, right? So before 50 Cent even got famous, right, he was in the streets and he had just got out of jail. He got caught up, but he was trying to fund his music career. So he's trying to organize a situation because by the time he got out of jail, they had changed things up where it was more like working class. Like, people had their little blocks and, people were comfortable, but basically you were limited to how much you could really make because, there was no real competition, right? So he wanted to bring the competition back and basically take over so he can make a good lump sum of money so he can get into the music industry. So what he decided to do to break up the comfortability is he orchestrated a robbery with the drug dealers that would be on the corners. He orchestrated it, right? He didn't even tell his friends that he was orchestrating it, right? And he orchestrated with a few guys, right? And he told them, not only do I want you to rob these guys on the block, I want you to also rob me. When I heard that, I was crying laughing. He told them to rob him too. This is propaganda. This is how propaganda really work. If it was obvious, right, what the moves were, it wouldn't be propaganda, right? So they came, they robbed the guys, they robbed him, right? And he talking to his friends who he didn't tell, right? And others like, dang, you seen that? They robbed me, man. What? We gotta have some like, how we gonna protect ourselves? Like, this don't make no sense. People just run up on us and rob us. This is crazy. We just sitting on the block. That's nuts, right? They're like, yeah, man, that's messed up. They took all my. Why he go back to the robbers who stole their drugs and their money and whatever they had and was splitting it between each other, cracking up, laughing. This is what I'm saying. This is the difference between when you read and when you're just a passive observer. I'm not even passive when I watch movies. I am talking back to the movies, right? Not out loud, but in my mind, I'm like, nah, that don't even make no sense. That's silly. That's it, right? I'm making logical arguments in my mind when I'm watching movies. Okay, because I don't want to be just passively receiving, subconsciously receiving information that may or may not sit right with me. Okay, so this is what he does. This is what he is. He did it most of the time. He talked about how when to be bad. That's a whole chapter. I could literally read you the name of the chapter. This is a chapter in his book, The 50th Law. Chapter 5, know when to be bad and aggressive. Okay, bad boy for life, bad boy, right? So he talks about how when he was ready to get into the music industry, he was trying to find who he needed to take out to get their position, right? Who was it? We all know it was Ja Rule, right? So he gonna challenge his position, and basically he sized him up and realized he was just a studio gangster. He was a wankster. He wasn't no real gangster, right? So he started doing diss tracks, and then one day he pulled up on him and was ready for whatever. And he said Ja Rule wasn't trying to fight. He didn't make no eye contact. He'd already made diss tracks to the man. The man didn't respond, and he was big time. If y'all don't know, Ja Rule was shit. Ja Rule got some hits. I'm not gonna lie, especially with Ashanti. Okay, but he didn't do nothing at all, and so 50 Cent was like, he really ain't about it. So then he came out with Wanksta and really just ruined his whole career, right? And then Ja Rule tried to finally come back with a diss track, but it was just completely emotional. He wasn't calculated, right? He didn't know how to be bad and aggressive. He didn't know when to do. He didn't have the sauce at the time, and so he lost the battle, right? And in that situation, he was actually trying to take him out. But there's other situations like with Diddy, right? And this is the thing, on his other book that he just wrote in 2020, right? He broke down how, and there's so many elements, right? Because I saw, because people try to make it seem like, oh, he couldn't get a record deal in New York and people's hating and blah, 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 right? This is a huge thing when it comes to 50 Cent and this dynamic with Diddy, right? And this overall theme of what we're talking about. So, I got a glimpse, and when I'm doing things like that, it's like the universe starts giving me confirmation of what I'm talking about, if it makes sense, or helping me to fine tune it, right? I saw an old interview of 50 Cent talking about how Diddy was the first person to approach him after he got shot, because he had a record deal, but after he got shot 9 times, they dropped him because they were like, oh, he's too dangerous. Like, he's an actual gangster. We don't want no real gangster. We want somebody to pretend like one, right? And not put us in danger. So they dropped him, right? But then after he got better, the first person to approach 50 Cent was Diddy. I had never heard that story because people were talking about, oh, yeah, Diddy passed up on him. And he told the story, and he said when Diddy was getting ready to come into the room to talk about, the deal and being a part of his label, he heard fighting outside the room, and it sounded like Diddy was fighting with somebody, right? Loud, and just tussling with somebody outside the room, right? And when Diddy came in, 50 Cent had his gun on the table, like, ready for whatever. He had his pistol on the desk, right? And 50 Cent was like, thinking back, I probably was just paranoid, but I had just got shot 9 times, and I wasn't trying to get shot again. So he was ready for whatever. And what I got from that, right, was that, first of all, again, propaganda, all this playing, pretending, fake, right? Diddy, outside the room, he's done this several times before because he knows what people talk about in the streets, that he's such a bad boy, but when in reality, he's just a damn nerd. He's a genius, right? So he's trying to keep up this tough guy New York image, so he pretending to tussle with somebody outside the room before he coming in with 50 Cent. So yeah, excuse me, sorry, I had to handle some business. He not expecting 50 Cent to come like he coming, ready to die to survive, right? If you try to come at him. He ready, he expecting what he's used to getting, which is a scared little puppy, right? On the other side of the table, right? How most men and or women would be, right? And for him to be able to easily get his way because they're scared for their lives, right? And also see him as a god and see him as the guy that can make him famous and rich, right? But 50 Cent has just survived death, seen the light and everything. And if you ever studied anybody that had an NDE, and I thought about this too with 50 Cent, he literally had a near-death experience and saw the light and everything. So when you come back, your mindset is totally different, right? You're thinking in terms of your entire cosmic spiritual body, and like you don't have the same fear of death. Yeah, you have a fear of death, but it's a different fear than people who have never experienced something like that, or anybody close to them that has had that experience. So what I gathered from that was when Diddy came in there and seen that 50 Cent had that gun right there and was ready to die, right, or ready to kill to protect himself, he said, well, I'm not going to be able to do the normal tactics that I could do with everybody else in order to control them and take all their money and, bully them like I could bully everybody else and be this bad boy. Right. So I'm going to just drop his, you know what? I'm just not going to go with him. And that's why he didn't take Diddy. Take 50 Cent. It wasn't because he was hating or whatever. He was ready to get behind him. So, from that perspective, there is again a level of respect that Diddy had for 50 Cent just because the fact he wasn't scared, right? And he was scared of things, but he wasn't scared of things in the way that would cause him to be easy prey, right? These two books that 50 Cent wrote is basically how to not be easy prey 101, right? And that's the big idea with this whole thing, right? When it comes to the music industry or any kind of business or whatever, as a grown adult, right? Because we're not talking about children at all, right? In this situation. Now, R. Kelly, I don't have no words for that. That ain't got nothing to do with me. You playing with kids, you need to be in jail, throw away the key. We're talking about grown adults, right? And yes, grown adults can violate people and different things like that. But, right, we as adults have to make sure that we're healing ourselves, protecting ourselves from our own fears and different things like that, right? And our own lack of judgment and character, right? And to not be easy prey, right? A lot of people in the music industry or any industry or whatever become easy prey because they have a weakness when it comes to ego and fame. They will do anything for ego and fame. They have people that have a weakness with money. They'll do anything for money. They have people that are afraid, right? Scared and not willing to defend themselves and protect themselves, right? They're looking for somebody to protect them. That's not a good, it's one thing to look for people to protect you as in bodyguards or in people that are a part of your crew, which is one of the first things that 50 Cent did, which was very powerful, right? Because after he got shot 9 times, right? He realized how vulnerable he was. Now you could be rah, but at the end of the day, if you got people that have 5 or 10 people that could pull up on you at any time and you just by yourself, then you're easy prey. So what does he do? He calls up his fans, some of his fans, people that loves his music, and people he grew up with, and talk to them about his vision. And, he basically talk about, look, y'all just see, I got shot 9 times. I need protection, right? But if y'all come and be a part of my crew, I'm going to put y'all on because I can see myself doing this, doing that, making all these records. I have these hit songs. I've been studying. I've been interning in the label that I was just dropped from. He breaks down all kinds of stuff. I have mentors. I got people that want to sign me still, right? And so we can get to the top together, but we have to be a unit, unit, right? And so moving like that and moving with that kind of force behind you, again, it makes you less of an easy prey. It talks about that in the men behaving badly situation, where when it comes to women, one of the tactics that men do and have done for a long time to gain control and leverage over a woman and power over a woman is take them away from their family. A lot of us know this, right? Take them away from their family, take them away from their friends. Why? Because it's easier to break down the self-esteem. It's easier to break down their morale and their desire to fight, right? And to defend themselves and to protect themselves. And especially when they don't have anybody there to help them to do so. They always make it, oh, your friend's single, she hating, blah, blah, blah. Not time to say she just got clear sense. She's not bamboozled, right? He's like, no, that's not right. You got a black eye. What's going on with that? Right? You need people checking on you. Okay. And so, that's one of those major things. And, he talks about all kinds of stuff like that. But the major thing with 50 Cent, the reason why he's able to gain respect from a Diddy and be able to work with a Diddy, right? And Jay-Z got a line called show you how to move in a room full of vultures. That's all of us have to have these experiences, right? If you're working at corporate America, if you're working wherever you're working, there's not some percent going to be vultures in the room, right? And so if you walking around scared, I see this all the time. I'm gonna just be real. I'm gonna just be blunt. Unfortunately, right, in corporate spaces, in business settings, I've seen this a lot of times. Y'all might get mad or y'all might just be honest, but I've seen a lot of times where black men will cower to anybody that's not black, right? Anybody, and I'll tell you a very specific experience. But this, when I tell you, and some of y'all can confirm, right? Or some of y'all can play like y'all. But to me, to pretend like it's not happening, it doesn't help anybody, right? So, prime example. Now I'm doing sales, and I'm one of the best salespeople they have ever had. I was the first female salesperson they had, and straight to the top because I'm a beast with mine, right, when it comes to sales. So when I got in, they were like, oh shit, we need to hire some more black people. Every time when I get into a sales position and I'm killing it, right, it get real diverse real quick. I ain't got to say nothing. I'm just an example of what's possible. It'd be like, let me get some lesbian in this bitch. Let me get some more women. Let me get some black people up here. So all of a sudden, within a week or two or a month, I'm seeing nothing but diversity. This happened to me on multiple occasions, right? So these people that's diverse, not realizing that I'm the reason. I'm largely the reason. And I'm not a hater. I'm somebody, I'll teach you everything I know. I'll show you how I'm doing whatever. But people, right? So they have this one younger, he's probably a few years younger than me. And he come in, and there's other black women, and we're talking about how it just seemed like he consciously separated himself from us, and it's just like, okay, right, and trying to be buddy with the white men and white people, right, and then he got himself caught up trying to do what the white people was doing, right, what the white men was doing, right, and they was scheming and scamming over there, right, and when they decided to crack down, who the first one to get fired? It was him. So then he the first one to get fired. He like, now all of a sudden you want to come and be in the groups that we in, right? Now these groups was always open. You could always came over here and talk to us, right? But now all of a sudden you want to come, right? Man, they talking about firing me, and I already know why they trying to fire me. I already know why they trying to fire me. Why? Is it because you're black? Did you forget, motherfucker? Did you forget, motherfucker? No. Do you want me to go and talk to the manager about how you was scheming and scamming like these women? Fuck no. Because I was still, and see, I'm thinking like, at the time, I'm like, damn, these people is killing out here. Let me hustle up. And I'm working harder while these motherfuckers over here cheating and scheming. See, I could have showed you how I work smarter and harder, and you could have had the keys and you ain't had to cheat and think that you could do what they could do. But no, you want to be over here kowtowing to them, and they have leverage over you, right? Because you see yourself as lesser than them, but you want to make like black women, and this has happened several times. Right? You want to separate yourself from us, right? And think you're up here. Meanwhile, right, I have already set a precedence for myself up here for my skills, right? I don't give a fuck what the labels are. That's why I love sales, right? And stuff like that, where it's truly merit-based, right? I've already set a precedent because of my actions and my deeds and my intelligence already over here. But you just coming in here and seeing a black lesbian and wanting to talk shit and probably talking shit with these white boys about me, but I don't give a fuck because guess what? I'm getting paid. The fuck I gotta kiss their ass for, right? They kissing my ass, right? So when you have fear in different areas, right? The fear is not gonna go away, right? I fear not being good and not making the money I made and not, right? I don't fear them firing me. They hired me at a higher percentage because of what I did at another company. I could go to another two, another three, they scared to lose me. And that's where, right, 50 Cent had a certain power, and this power was not based in money because he didn't have no money at that time. It wasn't based in money. It wasn't based in fame yet, right? Because he wasn't a global success yet. It wasn't based in none of these things. It was based in, and he has a chapter called Knowing Your Value, right? He understood his value. He was humble in certain areas. He understood the value of opportunity, but he also understood his value as a human being and as a creator, as somebody who can create their own success. Right. There's a lot of people, they want to get a buddy point. They want to get a kiss a motherfucker ass leg up. Right. That's where you get into some shit where you kissed an ass and then they want to play with your ass. I hate to make a joke. That's not good. I be having dark humor, but this is true. You kissing somebody, they don't have no respect for you. You see what I'm saying? They don't have no respect for you. You could take the internship or whatever the case may be, show you how to move in a room full of those. You may not even like the motherfucker you're working for, but you can see the things that you see that is a positive and that they're really good at, that they're genius at, and take that and leave the rest. Right? And grow as a person and build yourself up and build your skills up and build up whatever you're trying to do with yourself. Build out your business and your assets and become an asset to where you ain't got to give up your assets, literally, whether it's royalties, right? For example, the guy who had the dreads or whatever the case may be, who Diddy just said, I'm gonna take your shares in the business and I gotta go. Right now, I don't know how important he was to the company at that time, right? But didn't look like he put up a fight at all, right? And there's some people, they're like, well, he didn't, he gotta pay, he gotta feed his family, he gotta. Okay, well, you gotta feed your family. Same with the guy with the producer and all this other stuff. Now you making all these decisions, right? You laying down, getting drugged up, and allowing yourself to get. Because at the end of the day, you're a grown adult. You can say no to a drink that you should have figured out by now multiple times that it got drugs in it. Something that not right, right? I'm incoherent every other night. What's happening, right? Now you talking about, oh, I'm doing this for my kids. What? But now you sit up here taking all this abuse, right? And then supposedly he didn't even pay you your money that you're supposed to get, right? So by not advocating for yourself, right, it ends up being a lose-lose, right? You lost your booty whole, and then you lost your money at the end of the day. This is something that happens a lot. And some people, right, they will take, for example, when Diddy decided not to work with 50 Cent because he put that gun on the table. It's like, okay, is it a fight? What's going on here? Because I'm not trying to die. I just got shot 9 times. Y'all tussling and wrestling back there. Nah, what's up? Right? So he's like, oh, I can't play with this man like that. Some people will say, oh, he lost an amazing opportunity, right? That, you know, had he would have acted scared or whatever and I pulled the gun out or whatever the case may be, he could have got, but because he waited, he talked about how being patient and different things like that in the book. That's why I love talking about books. I love reading. Get the different perspective, right? He ended up getting the best deal for him, because he actually ended up turning down some deals because it wasn't the right one for him. He wanted to be really pushed as a superstar, right? And so he waited for the right opportunity to take that was in alignment with him, right? And his goals and different things like that. And he wasn't going to settle. And he was getting older. He's talking about how he was like 25 or something like that when he was, just starting out his career, really. Right. He had years where before he got shot and all this other stuff, but he was about 25 when he was trying to get that first album really to go off. And so people were saying he's stupid or crazy for turning down this and that, whatever the case may be. But being able to say no is powerful in itself. Right. This is why people say, nepotism babies and all this other stuff, the, celebrities, kids and stuff like that. What rich families and famous families and influential families can help their children do that maybe others can't is that they have the ability to say no, because guess what? I'm still rich, ho. I'm still famous. Like, for example, Willow and Jaden Smith. People be hating so damn bad on them. They could say, no, I'm not doing that. Sorry, I'm going to be fine, right? But it's very different when you got bills to pay. You think about your kids starving and all this. That's not a powerful place to be. It's not a powerful position. But if even when you're in those positions, you have enough power within yourself to say, in faith, whether it's in God, the universe, your ancestors, whatever case you got faith in, your just self-esteem, right? Your eternal God body, right? To be able to say, no, that doesn't sit right with me. Something's off about this. So I'm just going to pass and wait for the opportunity that is truly in alignment for me, right? You want to talk about nepotism, baby. We have ancestral royalty within ourselves. Some of us have different skills and talents and abilities, right? Whether it could be entrepreneur. For me, entrepreneurship runs in my family, right? And different things like that you can pull on and, maybe for a time you need to do a different business and help and have that business fund your business. So you could be a nepotism baby of your goddamn self, right? Maybe you have to move a little differently to get to where your goal is, but there is power in being able to say no, and to empower in being able to consciously choose and not feel like things are like you have to be chosen by somebody, right? And that can go into the Cassie situation. Now, this is a hot topic, right? But we're going to approach it, and this is the last thing I'm going to talk about because it's getting long, right? But the Cassie situation. So, right, in the beginning when the case was first starting, I was full blown. And not to say I'm picking sides. Still haven't picked a side. But, there's all these stories about, all these things. The video came out with Cassie and stuff like that. But then in trial, they're telling different stories and giving more details and things that's not sounding all the way right? And so, but just from outside looking in and just putting together the things that has been said, one of the first things I thought about and what was mentioned, and this is another thing, just before I get to this is something that just popped in my head. They had Al B. Shore in this documentary. But now once did Al B. Shore talk about how he thought that Diddy took out Kim Porter? He didn't talk about Diddy possibly causing him to get sick. Why he didn't bring that up? If it was truly a reckoning, right, that would be a prime opportunity for Al B. Shore to say that. Would it not? Because they was talking about Kim Porter. All he pretty much said was, this was my girlfriend, right? And he pretty much stole him, which makes, right, stole her, even though they had broken up already. But it just makes him look like he a playboy. He gonna get whatever he want. That man was paid to do that, right? He's like, you know what? I'm going to, settle. I could still seem like I'm going against Diddy. I could keep my life. He gonna pay me some money, and I can keep my life, right? So, but anyways, to go back to Cassie, I just want to throw that out there because there's a lot of just craziness. But first and foremost, right? We talking about choices. We talking about power. We talking about decisions. Yes, she was young. But let's not forget about Ryan Leslie, right? Ryan Leslie, this is a very important thing for this whole thing, right? Because we're talking about different levers of power and reasons why people do different things, right? Ryan Leslie found Cassie in the club. She just wanted to be a model, and she was just having fun in the club. And he was doing his thing at the time. He was starting to blow up as a producer and as an artist, right? I think he went to Harvard. Super smart, genius guys. I mean, these men are geniuses, right? These are rare genius men, right? These are some of the smartest men on the planet, right? This is not to say that they're the greatest men, again, that they have great character or whatever, but these men are geniuses. Okay, these are top of the line human beings. These are elite men. These are not regular everyday men that you meet on the street. Y'all are, maybe they show that perspective. Diddy, y'all think of Diddy is just a regular New York guy. You think of 50 Cent is just a regular guy. These are not regular men. I'm going to just tell you that right now. Ryan Leslie is not a regular man. Now, he picked up Cassie and he begged her. Right. First of all, they were just playing around and wanted to make a song for her mom. Right. I saw this in an interview where he was talking about. I like for people to tell their own story. Right. This is where Ryan Leslie was talking about how he brought Cassie to the studio to make a song for her mom, and her mom loved it. Right. And he was like, you could be a star. And he begged her to come to the studio and take the studio serious. And then they made, I'm pretty sure it was Me and You, which I think they made Me and You. I'm pretty sure, but it's either that or the song that they collaborated together. Which was another hit. I think it was like Diamond Girl or something like that. It was just crazy. So he's in the club promoting, doing his job and promoting her and blowing her up, right? Being a good boyfriend. You see what I'm saying? But just seeming like being a solid individual. Now, she was young, but he was also young, right? Then he brings her to the table because what he would do, he would basically help different artists to develop and then present them to a label, and then he would get a cut. It was just like basically sell them off to a label, so he'd get a cut, and then they would go on with their career, blow up. You know what I'm saying? So he brought her to Diddy, right? And they touched on this in the documentary, but they just made it seem like he stole. He again stole somebody's girl, right? So, but Cassie, right? If she would have chose to stay with Ryan Leslie, this is something I never hear, right? She 100% probably would have been a super duper star. She was already on that trajectory, right, to be a superstar. But at the same time, it was really Ryan Leslie who got her into music. So, to say she could have been maybe, but they say she wanted to be a superstar, but she really was geared towards being a model. So she ended up being both, right? But she chose to leave Ryan Leslie for Diddy. Diddy was a lot more famous, a lot more high status, had a lot more money, had a lot more pull, right? But she chose to go off with a wolf. Right? And there's a saying, like attracts like, right? So there is something that they related on for them to be together for 10, 15, however many years. It was a long time, right? And ultimately, a lot of the things as far as sexually, they were doing together, right? And not to say she never did anything that she didn't want to do, right? But there are a lot of women who do things they don't want to do. I there is a book by the same guy who made Men Behaving Badly, who made a book with this woman talking about female sexuality, right? And it took me a while listening to the book, right, to help me understand. It's called Why Women Have Sex. And the true title of the book should be Why Women Have Non-Consensual Consensual Sex, right? Why women consent to sex that they don't want to have. That's literally what the book should be called. It's insane. So this is some straight people stuff. But what it ultimately is, it talked about how there's a certain time period in just most relationships naturally where a lot of times the women is just not wanting to have sex every single day, all day, right? The other part of it is that these women don't be getting pleased a lot of times. So it's just like they're not turned on. Even if they are pleased while they're having sex, there is no turning them on in the process to get to the sex, right? For them to have that desire, right? And they try to make all these medical terms. Her libido is low and blah, blah, blah. But it could be something as simple as, bitch, you stink. Your armpits stink. You don't take a shower when you come home from the gym. Like, your breath stink. It could be you pissing me off. You don't take out the trash. Why I gotta baby you? Why I gotta be your motherfucking mama? It could be something that simple. It could be, bitch, she's stressed. She working. She taking care of the kids. You expect her to cook when she come home, clean. You not doing none of the few handyman tasks that have to happen. And take from me, I am a handy woman. I see it all the time. You're not doing the few manly things that you're supposed to do around the house, but all you do is work. You don't take care of the kids. You don't motherfucking clean. You don't motherfucking cook. And you want me to be a sex slave too at the end of the day? You want me to, at the end of the day, do all that shit and then have sex with your ass and be turned on by your ass? What are you doing that's turning me on? Everything you do is turning me on. What the fuck do you think? Why? Right? You're just adding some extra shit to my duty. I guarantee you, if they were to actually really like do research on the true reason why women do divorce, and I've read about this in a book, the true reason why women divorce men so much, it's the workload. It is the unfair workload, right? People say, oh, well, back in the day, women didn't divorce. But women could not divorce. And also women couldn't barely work. And even if they did work, they couldn't have no bank account until the 70s. So now women got bank accounts. They're working. They come into a relationship with property. They're getting degrees. They're doing all this other stuff. And so you still want them to act like they're just a housewife that just has to cook, clean, and take care of the kids? That's not making no sense. Right? So this is the average everyday woman's experience, right? And they're already having a habit from generations to generations of women having non-consensual, consensual sex, which basically means, and I don't want to give y'all no new terms because it's just crazy. So many terms out here. But they're already in a habit of saying yes to men because they feel like, you know, we're in a relationship, so therefore they own my body and I just have to give it to them. You know, I'm, being, selfish by not giving them my body, even though they can't even give me no kind of assistance around the house. Fuck. Or even pay for the assistance to get done, right? Hating on the people who I'm paying for the assistance to get done. Huh? So you're already having this habit, but y'all having to do all this work. She having this habit. She ain't got to do shit else. You think she cooking and cleaning? No, she is having a top of the line life experience, a billionaire life experience. Do you know a lot of women, right? This is just realism, right? And this is not victim blaming. This doesn't mean that people should be being abusive or doing anything. This is just talking about the whole picture and both sides, right? Because we have established Diddy is the bad boy. That's his brand. So you say, oh, he's bad, he's evil, he's terrible, okay, that's his brand. That's his brand. Whether he did it or didn't do whatever. Diddy. Whether he did it or didn't do it, did he? Right? He has established himself as a bad boy. So the more you talk about how he's, all these people are victimized, this is creating a state of fear or creating a victimhood, but he's in a state of power. This is the same thing people do with white people all the time. Right? You think, the only reason why you had to, because of slavery, and because of slavery, and because of slavery, and because of slavery. What do you think that does? Right? See, I grew up, right, from a young age, hearing things out of the mouth of babes, children. So I can, I know the subconscious that most people don't consciously understand and get, right, if they've only been raised around black people. Right? What are you doing? Well, right, you're putting them actually on a pedestal. You're empowering them and you're disempowering yourself. Right? Oh, you just have white privilege. That's why you got in the position that you got in. Blah, blah, blah. Right? You just got white privilege. Maybe. Absolutely. Even with that sales job, I'm talking about, it was insane, the level of disrespect, the bare minimum motherfuckers had to do to get promoted and to get in certain positions. Simply because they're white men. This happens with men in general too, in certain spaces, in male dominated spaces. Right? It don't be merit based a lot of times, right? But I also have a privilege of, right, being an underdog and people not expecting me to do the things that I'm able to do. And when it comes to business and when it comes to business in America, right, understanding sales and marketing, you can really win, right? I was looking at they were talking about the top 5 musicians in the world, money-making musicians in the world. 3 of them are women. 3 of them are black people. You understand? Out of the top 5 billionaires, top 5 wealthiest music artists in the world, right? I have a privilege. You can talk shit about, oh, well, it's just a stereotype. Black people just play basketball and are athletes. Well, guess what? Right? Athletes and entertainers. Well, guess what? Some of the wealthiest people in the world, or not even some of the wealthiest people in the world, are entrepreneurs, athletes, and entertainers. How many billionaire doctors do you know? How many billionaire lawyers do you know? Those are high paid jobs, right? When you're dealing with a high paid job, yeah, having privileges, white privilege or European privilege, foreigner privilege, right? It plays a good part. But when you're a business owner, which is the wonderful thing about America, right? When you're in sales and marketing, right? It's about numbers. It's about sales. Right? And so I have ancestral alignment. I come from a long line of entrepreneurs. I have that in my blood. I have that privilege. Right? So they can give you a position, but guess what? By me working, right, at the position that I'm doing in sales and marketing, I'm getting better at being an entrepreneur. So you being put at a position in somebody else's business, that's cute. That's cute. That's cute. Right? But it takes away your power, your true inner power. Right? So when it comes to Cassie, we're going back to Cassie. She is living, she's allowed, right? She's able, and this is, right, decision making. She could have been with Ryan Leslie. Right? He would have kept promoting her, kept, pouring into her as an artist, help her become a better and better artist, right? And to blow up bigger and be that superstar that she was meant to be. But maybe she didn't want to be that superstar. Maybe she would rather be a princess, arm candy, right? And living a billionaire lifestyle. She was able to become a model. She did do music. She didn't do music at the level that she probably could have because he always kept her under his thumb. But that's who she chose to be. She had the choice, right? She had the choice to be with a good man who was on the up and coming. He was already a millionaire, I'm sure, and he was doing his thing. But she chose, right? Most women, if they could choose, because it would be a lot of work involved to be a superstar, right? Beyonce was a multi-millionaire, right? With her own brand and everything else before she ever ever talked to Jay-Z, right? Jay-Z became a billionaire after he got with Beyonce. So that dynamic is never going to be the same. Even though, right, people say, oh, he drugs her. They got all these conspiracy theories, out. But as it stands, she a billionaire in her own right. Right? She has her own brand. She has her own thing. Right? So it's the difference. Right? Maybe she just didn't want to do what it took to get there. Right? Because again, Ryan Leslie had to beg her to take the studio seriously. Right? And again, we don't know all the ins and the outs of everything, right? But what we do know is she went off. She finally was done with Diddy. She went off with this white man. And this is the thing, too, I thought about. She went off with a white man. Now, if she not going to be with the top of the... And this is... Hey, we going into... Feel like if she can't be with the top of the line, billionaire black man, celebrity black man, she's just going to go with a regular ass white man. This is just good. They got a lot of motherfuckers. When it comes to optics, there are so many women that care far more about optics, titles, dollars. A lot of people know this, right? And people get mad, but some of this is the nature of women. This just is. Let's just talk about realism, right? There is benefit to, right, getting with a man with resources for a woman, because what women have evolved to do is to do and make decisions that will protect their offspring. That's the difference between men and women. Men have evolved to do things to protect their ability, right, to procreate, right? Protect their ability to procreate. So if they can only get with one woman, right, they can't see themselves getting with a lot of women. They're going to be hyper possessive over that one woman that they can procreate with. Does that mean that it's because they want to protect the child and want to see children grow? No, it's just because, right, they want to be able to do the deed. They want to be able to do the deed as much as possible, right? This is just the truth. Men talk about this all the time. If men could have their way, they would just have a plethora of women at all times. Most women, if they were to be completely honest, they don't necessarily want a gang of men all the time. A lot of times they act like they don't even like men. They don't even want men to be in their face, right? But a lot of women do want children. They want to be able to raise children and have them to grow, right? And right, they would like to have a unit, and that's the big battle with the sexes. Men want abundance of women. A lot of women, right, want abundance of protection, resources, right, and different things that only could come from men for the last few hundred years when they were constricted, right? But naturally, the earth, Mother Earth, is that abundance that women would get a lot of their abundance from, whether it comes from plants, protection from animals, and different things like that. This might sound like outlandish, but this is evolutionary history. This is true. The hunters and the gatherers. Come on, we're speaking truth here. We're talking realism, and men say these things all the time, and it's all up and through the animal kingdom. The men just want to do the Humpty Hump. A lot of times it be gone. Do you see right, male animals cuddling up with damn cubs all the time? No. But anyway, so it's natural for a woman to want to be with a man with a lot of resources. Now she, right, was not able to get with the man with a lot of resources, but she just got with a white man that gave her the optics that is like, oh, wow, that's so sweet. She was able to get with a white savior, right? So a lot of people subconsciously, whether they know it consciously or not, right, they are going to have nice feelings about Cassie because she went off and got with her a white savior, right? But the white savior ain't got no motherfucking money, right? My boy, you cannot provide the lifestyle as a personal trainer that my girl is used to. So what happens? Well, I got an asset over here. I got dirt. I got some dirt. I got some 50 million worth of dirt. Now, am I victim blaming? Am I saying, blah, blah, blah? This is my perspective. What I'm talking about is what is. When it came out in the trial, she ended up, right, because she was starting to she was trying to tell a story. She was sharing text messages and different things that she was having with Diddy, and basically ended up coming out that she cheated on her now husband with Diddy, right? Y'all can look this up. And he was sitting at the trial having to hear about this because it was going through her text messages, and they was talking nasty. They was together. She's supposed to be with this person's trainer at this time. Now people go, she's brainwashed, she was bamboozled, blah blah blah. Well, shit. If you date somebody and they was in an abusive relationship or whatever, because when it comes to domestic violence, a lot of women, right, they be in a cycle and they will get beat up with domestic violence and be right back the next day and wish a motherfucker would tell them anything about it. This is true. Yes, they got some brainwashing going on. They got stuff going on. But until they're ready to let that go or whatever happens, something happens where they feel like they can safely let it go, it ain't going to be let go. Right? Even when they're in a safe space, they will go back because there's some psychological shit going on. Is that her new husband's responsibility, or the if you were dating her or something like that, is that your responsibility? Hell no, she got to work on that on her own time. Shit. But he's sitting in court. But guess what? You think he's gonna break up with her ass? Fuck no. Cause why? She's arm candy, right? Let's talk about some real shit. She arm candy. She famous as fuck, and she has the ability to be rich as fuck and get some money. And he's sitting in that trial, right? Sitting on the 50 million. You think he give a damn? Now, he might feel away. He might use that against her. But at the end of the day, we about to get $50 million. Shut your ass up. Shut your ass up. And she got to stay knocked up with his ass. Now, they got people that will look at it and be like, oh, that's so sweet. She probably always wanted a family and a husband. Well, guess what? Male nature. He's trying to get her locked down, right? He's trying to get her, right? Now you married, right? Now you got to give me babies. This is what happens to a lot of women who they have, they may have a kid or two by another man, and then they want to get married by another man. Now this other man, he gonna demand you have some kids for him because he needs you to have some kind of right tie, right? Is that wrong? Is that bad? Well, it is. We're talking about realism. I need a baby a year, bitch. I need a baby a year. I need to secure my resources, right? Because guess what? When she get that $50 million, it's going to be like he got it. Because although a lot of people in hip-hop culture and different things like that know who Cassie is, on an everyday basis, probably wherever they're at, wherever they're living at, them people, don't, especially the white people, don't know who Cassie is. They don't know nothing about a goddamn Cassie, right? So he gonna be out there looking like he got the million. He gonna be looking like he balling out of control. They gonna assume that if they got a Lamborghini or whatever they driving in or whatever house they in, they gonna be assuming because he a white man. They gonna be assuming he the breadwinner. He the reason he got the money. They ain't assuming this because she got $50 million off of Diddy. Off a black billionaire. What? They don't even know these, right? These people don't even think that shit exists. Right? I'm talking about optics. I'm talking about this matrix reality. I'm talking about this propaganda. I'm talking about, right? People play with this stuff and they play within it, right? And so I talked for a long time, but I think y'all get my drift. I think everybody's playing different parts. And so for people to be getting emotional and, oh, you just hate this one, you're victim blaming. These people are not you. They're not the average person. And if you can get something out of this whole situation, it is to do the things that are in your best interest for you to not be easy prey to people who have this, whether it's real or imagined power. But we all have power, right, that we can exercise within ourselves, right? We have a power of choice. We have the power to say, like my boy Cat Williams said, did he want a party? You gotta tell him no. We all got the power to say, hell no. Do I want to did you send me a picture of you penetrating a white man? And you talking about this is how you gotta get in the industry? Delete, block, I'm out the industry. If this is what I gotta do, I'm gonna go on somewhere else. I'd rather wait a table, bitch. I'd rather be a music teacher and some shit until some shit come back around. Cause fuck no. You're not about to be playing with my booty hole. You're not about to be playing with me. We all have the power to say no. Right? Cassie has the power to say, you know what? You're powerful. You're doing this or whatever. But my man Ryan Leslie, he put me on, so I'm gonna stick beside him. I'm gonna stick beside him. She didn't do this. She didn't stick beside him. She went with the predator. And I guarantee you, there are a lot of women out there, right, that who are victims, right, and didn't get to live this lifestyle that you will never know and never hear. And even if they did come out, y'all gonna persecute them, right? If they say, well, damn, Cassie, right? And I'm not saying she was, but she could have very well been like a Ghislaine Maxwell, however you say her name, where she's setting up young girls or whatever the case may be to be victimized by Diddy or victimizing them with him. We don't know these things, but I guarantee you there's women out there that probably could tell you stories about Cassie and how she was, if she was with this man, if he's so terrible, he did all these things to all these different women and all these different people. And she on his arm the whole time. You don't think she has something to do with anything or turn a blind eye to anything? Huh? You ever think about that? It would take, right, extreme realism to do that. So that's what I got. Those are my thoughts. This is the new year, right? And it's time for us to really lock in and focus on ourselves, focus on our goals, right? And tap into our ancestral alignment, right? And get more tapped into self, right? And so if y'all want to I have a mental alchemy toolkit that has helped me a lot because it has the daily goals, the weekly goals, monthly goals, and different worksheets to help you get tighter in your focus and your mission and your purpose, right? To lock in on your vision so you don't get distracted by foolishness like this, but also, right? And not even so much get distracted by foolishness like this, but I've learned a lot from 50 Cent and a lot of the principles and different things like that perfectly align with the purpose of why I made the mental alchemy toolkit, right? Because it talks about a lot about vision and having goals and setting goals and being clear on what you want, right? And being patient. And sometimes it's hard to do when you don't have them clear, right, in front of you. So that's a major thing here. And so I've been using it myself literally every single day for the past year, and I was able to start my Instagram page and be consistent with it the entire year. I had that idea since like 2022, but until I actually started to put these things into practice every single day and have my friend holding me accountable, which is a huge, huge, huge plus, I definitely don't feel like it would have happened, right? So you can get the toolkit in the description or in the pinned comment. Like, subscribe, and I will see you on the next video.